Hey guys, it's Beth and welcome back to my channel. And today I am sharing another round of projects from my Hope and Faith pad from Craftsmart. And today's projects are also part of the Christmas in July 2020 PHA Challenge, and it's week 4, and so we are working on gift packaging. So one of the things I said I had wanted to make from this pad, from some of these larger 12 by 12 images, were gift bags. So I have made a few and I will show you what I've made, and then we will make one together. So here, hopefully, I don't know how well you can see them. It's the full 12 by 12 page. So I used the same page, like the same design on both sides, and then had to pull in extra paper for the sides and the bottom. And I've seen several videos on making these before, but they start with a 12 by 12, but then they end up scoring and it ends up being a lot smaller than a 12 by 12 bag. And I had remembered seeing one somewhere where they had brought in extra paper to make their sides. So I did some searching again, and I found a design from Mixed Up Craft here on YouTube, and I will link her video tutorial in the description box below. So I pretty much followed her instructions, but then just changed up a few things or left out a few things. She had made some tassels and used a different handle, and I want to say there was, I think it's just the order of the steps. I changed one of those too. But basically this is her design, and I was so glad I found the one that used the multiple or the extra paper for the sides so that I could use the full 12 by 12. This one could have been shrunk down a little bit, but there were also ones like this one, which had the gold design that went all the way to the edge. And so I just thought it would look weird if it was like folded in at that point. So I did this one the exact same way. See, pulled in a different paper for the side, and then it's funny, the bottom is a third. I was trying to pull all the greens and all the reds. So basically what I've done, I've used just some gold ribbon for my handle, and then I have tags already attached to the bags, and there was a sheet of paper, it doesn't show on here, let me see if I can find it. This is part of one, but it had all these little squares, so I just cut 2 of them together, left them attached, and folded it in half, and that's what made my tag. So far I've done 2 12 by 12 ones using those full 12 by 12 image patterns, and then this was a cut apart. It's like a 6 by 8 inch cut apart. And so basically what I did is I took her instructions, I think her name was Sam, and I took her instructions and sized it down to work on a 6 by 8. So again, I didn't have any extra room to work with on the sides, so I needed to bring in separate paper for the sides and on the bottom. And then again, have my handle and the little tag. So I'm going to make another 12 by 12 one with you guys today. And I watched, her Mixed Up Craft, like I said, I think her name is Sam. I watched her video once and kind of worked along with her, and then came back again and wrote down like all of the dimensions of everything and kind of created a little template for myself. And then I took that and converted it down to fit like a 6 by 8 size. So basically what I figured out, I kind of came up with some proportions that she had used for all of her different pieces. So you can see my little fractions down here. I was trying to figure out some proportions, and then just converted that to fit my 6 by 8. So if you guys are interested in seeing the 6 by 8 dimensions as well, I think I will do a blog post on this, and I'll have it linked in the description box. It's just easier to post all the instructions like this on my blog, and then rather than type it into the description box because of the formatting. So I will have both of these in a blog post, and then we'll link that in the description box so you can go there and find the instructions. I think that will be easier. And then I will also link Mixed Up Crafts video in the description box as well if you want to go to the original source. So with that being said, I have my pieces. I went ahead and cut my pieces, but I will talk about them with you as we go. So you need to figure out what you want your front and back panels to be. You can do 2 different patterns. I've seen that probably more often. I'm choosing to do the same pattern because I didn't really want to have to make like 6 or 8 different bags to use up these big sheets. I'm just using the same pattern on both sides, and then that way those are done. So whatever your front panel is going to be, you do not have to do anything to it. So I can temporarily set this aside somewhere. Your back panel, you will need to make 1 score. Now, one difference between my video and Mixed Up Craft, she actually uses a 12 by 12 scoreboard. So if you have a scoreboard, you're welcome to jump over to her video and see how she does it with a scoreboard. You know me, I've got my little makeshift score here with my old trimmer, and it works just fine. So if you have a 12 by 12 piece, you figure out what the top is, what the bottom is. If it doesn't have a direction, then it doesn't matter. But you want to score 3 inches from the bottom. So I'm just going to the 3-inch mark and scoring. And that's all that piece needs. So now you need 2 sides and you need a bottom. And they are all cut to the same dimensions. So you need 3 pieces that are 8 by 12. And so I have, because of the paper, like I had 2 of the same for my sides, and then I did a different pattern for the bottom. And this is kind of a weird bottom, but it's another one of those 12 by 12 sized ones that I was going to have to cut down and figure out how to use. So I just decided it was one of the only navy pieces left, and so I just decided to use it on the bottom. No one's really going to pay attention. So once you have those trimmed down to 8 by 12, then you can do your scoring. I've already done a scoring on a couple of the pieces and gotten them taped up to save time, but I will kind of talk about the scoring with you here. So this is the bottom again, and you just want to score at 1 inch in from each side. So like I scored here at 1 inch, and then I slid it over to 7 and scored again. And that's it. These will be kind of folded up at your sides. So next you're going to work on the sides, and this one I already have done, but I will do the second one with you. You're going to do the same thing as you did on the bottom. You're going to score at 1 inch from each side. So 1, and then I slide over to 7. And then again, if you have directional paper, you need to figure out where your bottom is and turn it so that you score 3 inches from the bottom, just like you did on that back panel. And now we want to come and do a score at 4 inches, and we're only going to go down to that 3-inch line. I know you probably can't see it from here, but that 3-inch line from the bottom that we just made, we're going to stop when we get to that point. We're not going to go all the way down, but we're coming, our side is 8 inches wide, so we're going halfway at 4 inches. And then you can see I'm stopping at that score mark. So now we're going to do one last scoring piece, but I'm not going to use my trimmer for that. So we want to come, I'm going to show you on this one because it's easier with the fold lines. So this is the 3-inch fold line, and then we want to come from this 3-inch fold where it meets our halfway kind of score going up, and we're going to create a diagonal score mark that comes to the 1 inch score line over here. I hope that makes sense. You can do this on your trimmer or your scoring pad, whatever. I'm just using a stylus and a ruler to help get these points. So I'm basically just drawing it from this 4 inch line that divides my piece in half, and it's really hard to see on this dark pattern paper, but then I'm making a diagonal line out to that 1 inch from the end. And these marks are just gonna, it's what helps the bag fold up. Okay, so now that we have all of our score lines, we can start folding, and you can kind of see how it takes shape. So I do the 2 sides and then that big one at the bottom. And then for this one in the middle, you're gonna kind of do a valley fold in. And I'm not using my bone folder on this because I don't want my paper to crack. And so now just want to kind of add a little fold to these diagonal lines here at the bottom. And so now our scoring and folding is done, and we can go ahead and I'm using the Silkwang score tape. You could use wet glue if you wanted. You just don't add your wet glue until you're actually putting it together. But this is some big awkward pieces that I didn't want to have to try and hold. Wet glue would obviously give you a second or two to slide things around into place, which is something I've struggled with the score tape, but the score tape just makes it easier kind of getting it together. And if you have the 1 inch score tape, that would work perfect for here. I don't, so I'm just using, this is like it's just over a 1/4 inch, I think. Like 3/8 maybe. Somewhere between 3/4 and 1/2 inch. And I'm just doing 2 pieces, one at the outside and one right before my score line. And that's all you have to do. So on your bottom piece, you just want to add the tape on the outside of your score lines. And then on your sides, you're going to do the same thing. You're adding your tape just to the outside of your score lines. Now, she suggests if you want to make your bag a little more durable, you can come in and put clear tape here on some of these creases where it's going to fold together, and it might help it, you know, with longevity. But we are completely out of clear tape right now. My daughter did some craft projects and pretty much used up all of the clear tape in our house. So I will not be doing that step today. So the last piece that you're going to need are 2 braces, and these are what's going to connect your bottoms, the bottom piece to your sides. So this is just a 2x6 inch piece of cardstock, and I just went with white because that's what's on the inside, the other side of my paper. And this will not be seen, it's going to be totally on the inside of your bag. So you cut it down to 2x6, and then you score it halfway. So at the 1 inch line on the long way, you're going to score it so that it folds in half. And then again, I've just done my score tape on both sides. So I'm done with that and can start putting these pieces together. And hopefully you can see it gets kind of big and bulky at times, but once you get going with these, they go together really quickly once you get the measurements and everything down. So I'm going to start with my bottom piece, and this is one of the ways that I differed from her tutorial, is that she had you fold it in like this and hold it down while you laid your front and back panels onto it. I struggled with that, and so I'm laying it upside down and I'm just lining it up. It may not be as close as a lineup, but it's pretty close. Like, I don't think you can tell, like, there's not a gap or anything. So you just take one of your front or back panels, it doesn't really matter, and you line it up with the edge of your score line, and then just burnish it down. And then you have, it's attached. See, mine, there is a little bit of a gap there where my score is. I probably could have come down further, but. So now we turn it around and I'm gonna do the same thing. It was so much easier because I had a hard time keeping that folded, the whole thing folded flat and trying to line up my paper. I'm apparently not coordinated enough to do it that way. So I do it this way. So now our front and back panels are attached, and this does look a little odd, but like I said, it's the bottom. No one's probably going to notice. And so I'm going to take my bone folder and go over where the tape is just to make sure it's going to adhere really good. So now our front and back pieces are on, and we're going to use the brace pieces that we made. And I'm just going to take tape off of one side right now. And this one I am going to fold flat. And I'm actually, it's like once you get everything folded, you need just shy of 6 inches on the braces. So I kind of trim it up once I size it out here against my actual paper. So I'm taking my crease here and lining it up at the very edge of the side of the bottom. And turn it around and do both pieces, do the other side, and then I will burnish. Oh yeah. It's like not even a full 1/8 of an inch that needs to come off, but it just makes a big difference when you're trying to fold it up and put it together. Okay. I'm going to burnish these down, and then I just remembered that I had wanted to change up the order a little bit. Once you get everything put together, she has you punch the holes for your eyelets to put your ribbon through for your handles. I have found that it's kind of awkward doing it at that point. So I have already come in and marked where I want to punch my holes. Putting the eyelets in is fine, but trying to punch the holes when you can't see inside the bag. So I have marked my holes at 3 inches in from each side. So at 3 and at 9 inches. So I've marked some lines there. And I'm going to come in, this is just We Are Memory Keepers hole punch. Or I think technically it's a crocodile, but it only does one hole. And that's because my original crocodile, the bigger side, my husband broke it when he was trying to punch, because this punches through just about anything, but he found something that it didn't punch through. I don't remember what it is, but he broke it. So I just needed to replace the bigger hole punch. So I have my marks here, and then I have this kind of set at as close to the edge as it'll be, like this little guide right here. So I'm just going to take my line so I can see where I need to be across the top of my paper, and then I'm going to go in as far as the guide lets me and punch my hole. Do the same thing on that side. And then I will erase these lines real quick. So flip it. I'm going to do the same thing. And this is definitely much easier than the way I was doing it before. And I think she had her holes at 4 inches in, but I kind of liked it being closer to the edge. So I changed mine up a little bit. Okay, now we can come in and add our sides. And so we are just going to pull off this tape and add our sides right down here on top of it. And this is just where it's going to get awkward probably for you to see once I get the sides on and start attaching them to the front and back. So I'm just lining it up at the very edge. Burnish that. Flip it around again. I was intimidated by these for a long time, but they really are not hard at all. They're just kind of big and bulky. Okay, put that one on. So now we have all of our structures here. We just need to start attaching them. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Work my way around in a circle. So I'm going to stand it up, and this is hopefully you guys can see. Fold my flap in and kind of lightly push these together, starting at the bottom, trying to make sure that you line up the outside edge of your paper with the outside edge of that flap. And once I have it attached, then I'm going to come in with my bone folder again and make sure it's going to stick really well. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And then work my way around. Let's see if it'll let me if I can do it this way. So you guys can actually see me, because where my camera is, if it's standing up, I don't think you can see it. This is where wet glue would be handy, just because it would let you slide things around a little bit. Okay, our last corner here. And burnish that in. And now we have what looks like a bag. This is our front, side, back, side, bottom, inside. So you can see that I already have my holes here, so that is handy. So next I'm going to come back to my original crocodile because it has the eyelet setter. And I can't tell you the last time I used eyelets, but I have tons, so this is a good use for them. I am using gold since I have so much gold detail in this paper. And just little gold eyelets to reinforce the holes so that the ribbon doesn't tear. So this part is actually fairly easy to do once you get the holes punched. But so on your eyelet setter, you may have more than one size. Like this is for a tiny eyelet because there's two sizes of hole punch. So this would be for the smaller hole punch. I'm using the larger prong here. and I just put that prong in through the top hole of the eyelet and squeeze, and it sets. And you can see, if you've not used eyelets before, you can see it just kind of squishes in that back side and holds it in place. So I'm just going to do that for all 4 of these. And one thing I'm just going to talk about at this point is, if you find like there's any places where your paper overhangs on a side or the top or whatever, you can go in and just trim those up, because you may not always get everything perfectly lined up working with such a big bag. Okay, eyelets are in. For ribbon, I think I will use this gold again. This is, I don't know where this ribbon came from. Michael's maybe? I don't know. But one thing I found out after doing my first bag is to go ahead and cut both sides of your handles at one time. So I'm trying to free up a good amount of ribbon here so that I can kind of roughly measure. I like the fact that this has a stopper on it, but it's a pain in the butt to unroll any length of ribbon. Okay, so what I did to figure out the size of handle I wanted was not scientific at all. I basically said, okay, you have an overhang, and about how far out did I want my handles to come, and then I added a little bit of allowance for overhang and knot, and then doubled that. And then just cut. That is a mess. And then just take this and trim it in half. So I'm going to go ahead and do my first knot before I thread it through. And depending on how stiff or wide your ribbon is, this ribbon is fairly stiff. But if you were using like more of a satiny ribbon, you would probably want to do at least 3 knots, because you want to make sure it's not going to slip through your eyelet hole. This is fairly stiff, and so the knots don't get super small. So now that I have my starting knot, I'm going to thread my ribbon through, and so you can test it by making sure it's not going to pull through. And then feed it through the front on the other side, and I will kind of pull this out so you can see. Doing the same thing on this side, making a double knot, and then I'll come back in and trim up my edges. So there, that's our handle, and you can see kind of the overhang on the inside, and I will maybe clean that up just a little bit. So now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side. Start with my knot. Now she had handles that she had actually, I think, harvested from other shopping bags. And so she was using more of an official handle. And then I want to say the Posh Paper Lady actually has found handles somewhere, like fancier handles, but I don't really see myself making tons of gift bags, so I am just good using ribbon, but you use whatever it is that you have. Feed that through. But I love having found a way to use up so many of these giant prints that were in this pad. I mean, I'm a scrapbooker, so I don't mind having some, images that are 12 by 12 size, because I can usually use them. But I mean, some of these I wouldn't want to cover this in a scrapbook. But then, oh shoot, see, I'm talking and I tied my knot before I slipped it through. But I wouldn't want to necessarily cover it, and nor do I have room to frame them all. So at least this way I can use it without chopping it up. I will get this knot out and be right back. Okay, knot is out. I am going to slip it through before I tie it this time. Focus on what I'm doing. And now I can tie my knot. But hopefully you guys, were able to follow this and realize that it's not as hard as it sounds like I always thought it was, and that you can use up some of the paper you have to make some gift bags for the holiday. And it's a great way if you wanted to personalize a gift for someone. Okay, so ribbon is attached, the inside of my bag, front. So want to make sure, okay, so this is the front. So the last thing I want to do is I have my little tag, and it can go either way. It's got something on both sides. I actually probably put it this way since it's got, the snowflake doesn't matter which way it's going to go. This is some kind of gold and white twine from Michael's, and it's from Midnight Magic, which I found out on clearance after Halloween several years ago. And I don't think I've used it for any Halloween projects, but I've used it for a bunch of other stuff. So I'm just taking a little piece of that and threading it through my hole. I've already punched a hole. This time I used the smaller hole punch on my my punch here. Now my brain's not working. So I'm just tying a little bit of a knot here, kind of close to the ends of my string. Oop. And then I'm going to come to my handle and just slip that right through so that it hangs off there. Now we have a gift bag that is ready to go. And the nice thing for storage is it can fold up and be stored away. So like I said, I will have the dimensions and instructions for the 12 by 12 bag that I made, as well as this little 6 by 8 bag in a blog post. Link it below so that you don't have to necessarily write everything down and follow along. It'll be kind of in writing there for you. But if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I will link any of the products that I can find in the descriptions box below. But a lot of this is kind of older from Michael's. But if you'd like to follow along with more of the participants in this Christmas in July 2020 PHA challenge, you can follow along with the hashtag that will also be in the description box below. And I believe there are some participants on Instagram and YouTube, and you're welcome to play along and do some Christmas crafting as well. But again, hope you guys enjoyed this project and a different way to use up these big prints and maybe even your cut-aparts. But thank you guys so much for your time today, and I hope you're having a crafty day.